The forbidden trespass. The stars above Earth were calm, peaceful, and untouched. The humans on Earth had lived under the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council for centuries, and they had learned to respect the boundaries placed around them. The Milky Way, their home, was part of a vast galaxy governed by laws that all species had agreed to follow. One of the most important rules of this law was the prohibition against entering a specific zone near Earth, a region that was off-limits to outsiders. It was a simple rule, and yet it was one that the Xilari Dominion was about to break. The Xilari Dominion was an ancient empire known throughout the galaxy for its ruthless conquests and vast power. Their ships were larger than most planets, their weapons sharper than the sharpest blade. For years, they had been watching Earth from a distance, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The Galactic Council had placed the restriction on Earth for a reason. They wanted to keep the humans isolated, to prevent them from interfering with the broader events in the galaxy. But the Xilari Dominion saw it differently. They believed that Earth was a weak, primitive species, unworthy of the protection the Council had granted them. The Council had warned the Xilari not to cross the forbidden boundary, but they did not listen. They saw the Milky Way as ripe for conquest, and they believed Earth's hidden power would be no match for their might. The Xilari fleet had been gathering near the outer rim of Earth's solar system, just beyond the sight of the humans. They were about to test their strength against a planet they considered to be insignificant. As the first wave of Xilari ships entered Earth's solar system, they felt nothing but confidence. Their warships gleamed with high-tech weapons, their advanced engines roaring to life as they approached their target. The fleet moved through space at unimaginable speeds, easily passing through the empty space between the stars. There was no sign of human resistance. The Xilari commanders scoffed at the idea that a species as young and primitive as humanity could ever stop them. But little did they know, Earth had been preparing for this moment for a long time. On the surface of Earth, life went on as usual. People went about their daily routines, unaware of the looming threat just beyond their atmosphere. But high above, in hidden underground bunkers, military leaders and scientists had been monitoring the growing threat from the Xilari fleet. Earth had been silently building its own defenses, using technology that had been developed in secret for decades. Deep in the oceans, hidden away from prying eyes, vast fleets of warships lay dormant. These ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They were not powered by advanced alien technology, but by a force that was uniquely human: ingenuity, resourcefulness, and the power of an untapped potential that had been lying dormant for generations. As the Xilari ships neared Earth, the first signs of resistance began to show. It started with a low hum, barely audible, but enough to send ripples through the alien fleet. The Xilari fleet, so confident in their victory, suddenly felt something was wrong. A strange energy signature flickered in space, and the commanders looked at each other in confusion. They hadn't expected this. Then, from the depths of Earth's oceans, something massive stirred. Giant warships, built in secret for decades, slowly began to rise from their hidden lairs beneath the water's surface. These ships, designed for stealth and power, were unlike anything that Xilari had ever encountered. They moved with terrifying speed, and their weapons were unlike any that Xilari had seen. These ships were not designed for defense. They were built to strike back. The first shots were fired. The Xilari fleet, confident that they were the most powerful force in the galaxy, were taken by surprise. The humans had fought back, and they fought with a ferocity that sent shockwaves through the invaders. The first wave of Xilari ships exploded into fiery debris, their advanced technology powerless against the relentless force of Earth's hidden fleet. As the smoke cleared, the Xilari commanders scrambled to regain control. They had underestimated humanity. They had believed Earth's people were weak and unprepared. But now, they saw the true strength of the human spirit. A spirit of resilience and defiance that had been building for centuries, waiting for the moment to strike back. The Xilari fleet, once confident in their superiority, now found themselves in a battle they never expected. They had trespassed into forbidden space, broken the laws of the galaxy, and awakened a sleeping giant. The human forces, with their hidden arsenal and newfound power, were ready to make their stand. But this was just the beginning. The auxiliary commanders issued orders to their remaining ships to prepare for a counterattack. They were not going to let Earth stand in their way. But Earth's response was already in motion. The human fleet, led by commanders who had spent their lives preparing for this moment, would not back down. They would not be intimidated. As the battle raged on, the auxiliary realized the truth. Earth was no longer the weak, isolated planet they had thought it to be. They were now facing a force that would stop at nothing to defend their home. The forbidden trespass of the auxiliary dominion had unleashed a chain of events that would change the course of galactic history. The question now was, who would emerge victorious from the ruins of this unexpected war? The battle for Earth had only just begun, and the fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. The auxiliary dominion had made their mistake, and Earth was ready to make them pay. As the auxiliary fleet regrouped, a sense of fear began to settle over the invaders. They had underestimated humanity, and they knew now that they had awakened a force that would not be easily defeated. Earth's warships were just the beginning, and the galaxy would soon learn that humanity was not a species to be taken lightly. The next chapters of this battle would determine the fate of not just Earth, but the entire galaxy, and it was clear now. Humanity had no intention of being conquered. They would rise, and they would fight back. The auxiliary fleet hovered at the edge of Earth's atmosphere, their massive warships casting shadows over the planet below. Their commanders, still confident in their superiority, sent out a message on all known frequencies. Their voices echoed through space, filled with arrogance and contempt. They demanded Earth's immediate surrender. They expected the humans to tremble, to beg for mercy, to acknowledge the might of the auxiliary dominion. But there was no response. Instead, the silence from Earth stretched on, unsettling the invaders. They had expected fear, panic, desperation, but all they received was nothing. The auxiliary commanders exchanged confused glances, their confidence wavering for the first time. Something was wrong. This was not the reaction they had anticipated. On the surface of Earth, deep within fortified military bunkers hidden beneath mountains, Earth's leaders and strategists watched the enemy fleet in silence. They had been preparing for this moment for decades. The Galactic Council's laws had kept Earth isolated, but humanity had never stopped growing, never stopped advancing. While the rest of the galaxy dismissed them as a minor species, humans had been watching, learning, and most importantly, building. Now, as the auxiliary hovered above them, the time had finally come to reveal what humanity had hidden for so long. A single signal was sent from Earth. It was not a response to the auxiliary's demand for surrender. It was not a plea for peace or a message of compliance. It was an activation code, a code that had been waiting for this moment, locked away in the deepest, most secure systems on the planet. Far beneath the ocean's surface, where no alien sensors had ever detected movement, the first wave of Earth's true fleet began to rise. The water trembled as massive warships, sleek and silent, emerged from the depths. These ships had never been revealed to the galaxy. Even the Galactic Council had no idea they existed. Built in secret, powered by technologies the rest of the universe had never seen, they were Earth's greatest weapon. The auxiliary fleet remained oblivious, their commanders still believing they had won before the battle had even begun. They sent smaller scout ships down to the planet, hoping to force a response from humanity. These ships moved quickly, descending into the atmosphere with precision. But as they neared the planet's surface, something happened that none of them could have predicted. Without warning, a massive energy surge erupted from the ocean below. The first scout ship was caught in the blast, its advanced shielding shattering instantly. In the blink of an eye, the ship disintegrated, its remains vaporized by an energy signature the Xilari had never encountered before. The other scouts immediately attempted to retreat, their pilots panicking as their instruments failed. Another blast followed, and another, each one targeting a different scout ship with deadly accuracy. Within seconds, all of the Xilari's advance units had been wiped out. The Xilari command ship, still positioned high above the planet, watched the destruction unfold with growing unease. This was impossible. Earth was supposed to be defenseless. The Galactic Council had ensured that humanity had no access to advanced weaponry, and yet the evidence was undeniable. Someone had lied. Then, the real horror began. The ocean below erupted as dozens of Earth's hidden warships broke the surface, rising into the sky with terrifying speed. They were unlike anything the Xilari had seen before. Their sleek black hulls absorbed light, making them difficult to track. Their weapons hummed with power, energy signatures fluctuating in ways that should not have been possible. But what truly shocked the Xilari was their movement. These were not the slow, cumbersome ships they had expected. These vessels moved like predators, fast and precise, their formations flawless as they ascended into the upper atmosphere. Panic spread through the Xilari fleet. The humans were not weak. They were not defenseless. They had been preparing for this very moment, waiting in silence as the rest of the galaxy ignored them. And now, as the Xilari fleet hesitated, that patience had run out. The first shot from Earth's fleet was fired. A single beam of energy lanced through space, targeting one of the smaller Xilari destroyers. The alien ship attempted to evade, its engines flaring as it moved to escape the blast. It was too slow. The energy beam struck its hull, and in an instant, the ship was gone, reduced to nothing but scattered atoms. The Xilari commanders barely had time to react before more shots followed. Earth's fleet was fast, efficient, and ruthless. Within seconds, multiple Xilari ships had been hit, their hulls breaking apart under the sheer force of the attacks. The Xilari, who had once believed they were the most powerful force in the galaxy, were now the ones scrambling to survive. The Xilari command ship received incoming transmissions from the remaining fleet. Their captains shouted over each other, panic evident in their voices. They had come expecting an easy victory, but instead, they had walked into a trap. They had underestimated humanity. And now, they were paying the price. For the first time in their history, the Xilari Dominion faced an enemy they did not understand. An enemy that had spent generations hiding its true strength. An enemy that, despite being isolated and disregarded by the Galactic Council, had managed to build a military force capable of challenging one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. The Xilari commander stood frozen on his bridge, staring at the battlefield unfolding before him. His fleet was being torn apart, his ships falling one by one. He had a choice to make: continue the fight and risk total annihilation, or retreat and report what he had witnessed. But even as he considered retreat, he knew the truth. This battle was far from over. Humanity had revealed its power, but they had not yet shown their full strength. There was something else, something even more terrifying lurking beneath the surface of this planet. And the Xilari Dominion was about to find out exactly what it was. The battlefield in Earth's orbit had become a graveyard of Xilari warships. Wreckage floated in the void, the remains of once mighty vessels that had come expecting an easy conquest. The few surviving Xilari ships attempted to regroup, but panic had spread through their ranks. Their commanders, once so arrogant, now hesitated at every command, their confidence shattered by the merciless efficiency of Earth's hidden fleet. Humanity had been underestimated for centuries. The Galactic Council had ensured that Earth remained cut off, dismissing its people as insignificant. They had restricted technological advancements, blocked access to interstellar trade, and kept the planet under strict surveillance. And yet, none of it had mattered. In the darkness of the deep oceans and hidden underground bunkers, humans had prepared for the day the galaxy would come for them. That day had arrived, and now the galaxy would pay the price. On that Silari command ship, Grand Admiral Kavrik stood in stunned silence, his clawed hands clenched into fists as he watched the destruction unfold on the holographic battlefield before him. His officers frantically relayed reports, ship after ship lost, communications failing, their battle formations collapsing. Kavrik had led countless campaigns, crushed rebellions, conquered entire systems. Never had he faced an enemy like this. He turned to his tactical officer, his voice sharp. How did they do this? How did they hide a fleet of this scale? The officer hesitated. Unknown. Admiral. Their technology. It's beyond anything we've encountered. Their weapons, their ships, none of this should be possible. Kavrik's mandibles tightened in frustration. Then we make it possible. Order all remaining ships to form a defensive line. We regroup. We strike back. But before his officers could execute his orders, something happened that sent a fresh wave of dread through the auxiliary fleet. From the dark side of the moon, additional human warships emerged. At first, only a handful, then dozens, then hundreds. They moved in perfect formation, their sleek black hulls absorbing radar signals, making them appear like ghostly shadows in the void. They bore no markings, no insignias, only the silent promise of death. The auxiliary realized, too late, that what they had faced so far was not Earth's full strength. Admiral Kavrik's stomach sank. Impossible, he whispered. It was a trap. The auxiliary had been lured in, made to believe they had faced Earth's secret weapon. In reality, they had only been engaging the first wave. Now, the true force of humanity was revealing itself, and the auxiliary were caught in a noose that was tightening by the second. The lead human ship broadcast a message. Unlike the auxiliary's arrogant demands, it was not spoken in rage or desperation. It was cold, controlled, and absolute. "This is your only warning," the voice declared. "Surrender now, or be erased." The auxiliary fleet had never surrendered in its history. It was a race bred for war, for dominance. But for the first time, surrender was starting to seem like the only option. On the bridge of the auxiliary command ship, Admiral Kavrik weighed his choices. He could continue fighting and risk total annihilation, or he could retreat and return to the Galactic Council with the truth. Humanity was not a weak species. They were not helpless. They were something far worse. They were patient. They were prepared. And now, they were angry. But before the auxiliary could make a decision, Earth made it for them. The lead human warship surged forward, breaking formation. Its engines flared, and in an instant, it was upon them. It fired no warning shots. It gave no further chances. One blast from its main weapon struck a auxiliary battlecruiser, and the ship was gone, vaporized in a silent explosion. Another beam followed, then another. The auxiliary fleet disintegrated under the relentless assault. Their shields were useless. Their armor might as well have been paper. They had walked into a war they had no hope of winning. Kavrik gritted his teeth, slamming his fist against the console. "Retreat," he barked. "All ships, retreat now." But there was nowhere to run. The human fleet moved like a pack of predators, cutting off escape routes, forcing the auxiliary into kill zones. The once mighty warships of the Dominion were reduced to helpless targets, hunted down with ruthless precision. Desperation filled the auxiliary ranks. Some tried to fight back, firing their plasma cannons wildly into the void. But it was useless. The humans had studied them, learned their tactics, countered their every move before they even made them. Admiral Kavrik clenched his jaw. He had to make a choice: stay and die, or find a way to survive long enough to warn the Council. He turned to his navigation officer. "Plot a blind jump. Get us out of here." The officer hesitated. "Sir, we could end up anywhere." "I don't care," Kavrik snarled. "Do it now." The command ship's engines roared to life, its warp drive charging for a desperate escape. As the ship tore through space, leaving the battlefield behind, Kavrik took one last look at the screens. The auxiliary fleet was gone. destroyed, wiped out as if it had never existed. And Earth remained untouched. The humans had won. And now, the galaxy would never be the same again. The auxiliary warships fled, their once mighty fleet reduced to smoldering wreckage drifting in Earth's orbit. But even as their retreating vessels vanished into hyperspace, humanity did not celebrate. There was no triumph in their faces, no shouts of victory. The war had just begun, and they all knew it. Inside Earth's primary command bunker, deep beneath the surface, Supreme Commander Elias Carter stood before a massive holographic display. The wreckage of Silari warships glowed red, marking the devastation they had suffered. But beyond that, another map loomed, one that showed the Silari home system, along with the positions of other galactic powers that had long conspired against Earth. "They will be back," Carter said, his voice calm but firm. "And they won't come alone." Around him, the top military minds of humanity watched in silence. They had fought wars before, wars for resources, for ideology, for survival. But this was different. This was not just a fight for Earth. This was a battle for their very right to exist in the galaxy. General Sophia Reyes, a hardened veteran of Earth's Secret Space Division, leaned forward. "We've broken their fleet. We've proven we're not helpless. The Silari will think twice before returning." Carter shook his head. "No, they won't think twice. They'll come with a vengeance." He gestured toward the holographic display. "The Galactic Council won't allow this humiliation to stand. They've spent centuries keeping us contained, suppressing our growth. Now that we've exposed our true power, they'll have no choice but to act." Silence hung in the room. They had all known this day would come, but now that it was here, the weight of it was crushing. Admiral Kasumi Tanaka, the commander of Earth's hidden naval forces, exhaled sharply. "Then we strike first." Eyes turned toward her. Carter gave a small nod, urging her to continue. "The Silari retreated, but they will report everything to the Galactic Council," she said. "They'll request reinforcements. Soon, the full might of the galaxy will descend upon us. If we wait, we'll be overwhelmed." A murmur spread through the officers. The logic was clear. Humanity had survived by being cautious, by staying in the shadows, by hiding its true strength. But that time was over. The only way to survive now was to take the fight directly to their enemies. "We cannot take on the entire Galactic Council at once," General Rice said. "Their forces are vast. But if we strike their leadership, we might fracture their unity." Carter considered the idea. A surgical strike, target the Council's command structure, weaken their control over the other species. Admiral Tanaka nodded. "Exactly. Without leadership, the Council's forces will be divided. If we act quickly, we can turn this war into chaos. Chaos that we control." Carter turned to a tactical officer. "How soon can we deploy?" The officer checked his datapad. "Our ocean fleets are already mobilized. The moon base is fully operational. The Mars shipyards can launch additional warships within 72 hours. Carter made his decision. "Then we move fast. We take the fight to them before they regroup." A new energy filled the room. Humanity had been forced into a war they did not start, but now they were in control. They would not wait for their enemies to dictate the terms of battle. The plan was simple but daring. Using the advanced stealth technology that had allowed Earth to hide its fleets for so long, their warships would infiltrate the Galactic Council's home system. A precise strike would eliminate key leaders, disrupt communications, and throw the entire council into disarray. If they succeeded, they could turn the galaxy's mightiest rulers against each other. But failure meant extinction. Across the stars, in the heart of the Galactic Council's capital world, the Silari survivors arrived. Admiral Xabrick staggered out of his command ship, his once pristine uniform torn and stained with soot. The other council species gathered, their reptilian eyes and insectoid antennae twitching in anticipation. They had expected news of a swift Silari victory, of Earth's submission. Instead, they saw a broken fleet and a shattered commander. Zavrik stood before the Grand Council, his voice hoarse. "Earth is not what we thought." The council members murmured, some in disbelief, others in barely contained rage. A towering reptilian member of the Vorak species hissed, "You mean to tell us your mighty fleet was defeated by primitives?" Zavrik's mandibles clicked in frustration. "They are not primitives. They are warriors. Their technology rivals our own. Their tactics." He stopped himself, inhaling sharply. "We walked into a trap, and now they know we are coming for them." The Grand Chancellor, an ancient being from the Oferi race, narrowed his many eyes. "Then we have no choice." He turned to the gathered leaders. "The Council must assemble its full armada. If we do not crush Earth now, we will never control them again." Murmurs turned into shouts of agreement. The galaxy would burn if that was what it took to break humanity. But as the Council prepared for war, they did not know that Earth had already begun its counterstrike. Deep in the void, human warships were already en route. The hunter was about to become the hunted. As the Galactic Council's plans to strike Earth took shape, they remained unaware that humanity had already begun its counteroffensive. The moment Admiral Zavrik had returned to report Earth's resilience, a new tide was rising. Across Earth, commanders and engineers had been working tirelessly, preparing their fleets for the next stage of the war. The decision was made. Humanity would no longer hide in the shadows. They would not only defend their planet, but would fight back, striking where it hurt the Galactic Council the most: their homeworlds, their resources, their leadership. Supreme Commander Elias Carter sat at the head of the War Council. The faces before him, both human and alien, were tense but resolute. The room was filled with the hum of technology, warships' blueprints scattered across virtual screens, battle simulations running in real time. Everyone knew what was at stake, but no one could afford to back down. "We've got one shot at this," Carter spoke, his voice steady despite the weight of the plan they were about to execute. "The Council believes we are fractured, that we are divided. They think they can break us, but they haven't seen what we've built, what we've hidden for centuries." Admiral Tanaka, now a symbol of Earth's resilience, stood to present the final plan. "We will strike at the heart of the Council. Their primary systems are vulnerable, cloaked under their own arrogance and the complacency they've come to rely on. We will break their chains, shatter their command structure, and show them that humanity is a force they can no longer control." The map before them displayed the sprawling networks of the Galactic Council's worlds. It was an intimidating sight, with countless systems marked in red, warning areas, heavily defended sectors that even the bravest of commanders hesitated to challenge. But there, at the center of the display, were the vulnerable spots. Weak links in the Council's defensive chain, where overconfidence had allowed cracks to form. One system, in particular, stood out, a remote but critical outpost that controlled much of the Council's communication network. It was a hub for the entire galaxy's military communications and command. If Earth could strike here and disrupt the Council's ability to coordinate, they could cripple the galaxy's largest military force for a time. But the risks were enormous. The outpost was heavily guarded, protected by fleets that outnumbered humanity's forces. Any mistake, and Earth's fleets would be destroyed. But Carter had no choice. "We have to hit them where it hurts the most," he said. "This will be a test of everything we've prepared. A strike at the heart of their command." The entire fleet, built in secrecy and hidden beneath the ocean floors and beneath the surface of distant moons, was mobilized. Each ship had been carefully designed to function in stealth. No radar could detect them, no system could track their movements. Earth had learned the art of subterfuge and deception well, and they had perfected it. They would strike swiftly, silently, and without mercy. As the ships prepared for launch, a sense of unease swept through the command center. This was no longer a war of survival. It was a war of defiance. Humanity was no longer the underdog. They were a force, and the galaxy would soon know it. Out in the void of space, hundreds of ships from Earth's hidden fleet slowly powered up, one by one. Each ship, a testament to humanity's ingenuity, emerged from the shadows. Their sleek hulls, darkened to blend with the deep blackness of space, were invisible to the eye and undetectable by sensors. These were ships that had once been thought of as mere rumors, whispers in the far reaches of space. But now, they were a reality, a deadly reality. As they assembled, ready to make the jump to the auxiliary command station, Commander Carter sat in the bridge of the flagship, the Eagle's Wrath. The ship's engines hummed, resonating through the floor. The cold metal walls around him reflected the eerie glow of the command console. He gripped the edge of his seat, his knuckles white. This mission was about to change the course of history. "We're ready," said Admiral Tanaka, her voice steady, despite the high stakes. "The fleet is in position. We move out in 5 minutes." The silence that followed felt heavier than 1,000 years. Carter's gaze shifted from the large display, showing the fleet to the faces of the crew members around him. Each of them had been through years of training. Each one had seen their fair share of battles. But this was different. This wasn't just another war. This was Earth's declaration to the galaxy that they would no longer bow to anyone. The countdown began. 5, 4, 3. At that moment, every ship in Earth's fleet powered up their warp engines. The transition into hyperspace was smooth, silent, and swift. In a blink of an eye, the entire fleet was en route to their target. They were moving faster than the enemy could react. But as Earth's fleet hurtled through the stars, the Galactic Council's forces were already reacting. Their intelligence networks had detected something strange. The reports were coming in. Rumors of human warships moving in the depths of space, undetected by any known technology. For the first time, the Council realized their underestimation of humanity might cost them everything. "Something is wrong," murmured the Grand Chancellor, his many eyes narrowing as he surveyed the new data coming in. He wasn't the only one to feel the shift. The auxiliary survivors, still licking their wounds from the previous battle, began to understand the gravity of the situation. Earth was no longer hiding. They were hunting. As the fleet neared the Council's communications outpost, the tension reached its peak. The delicate balance of stealth and precision would decide everything. They had one shot, one chance. Earth's ships, hidden in the dark void of space, poised for their strike. The countdown to war was almost complete. Would humanity succeed, or would this daring mission become the last stand of Earth's fleet? Time would tell. But one thing was clear: Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. The galaxy would remember this strike, for it would mark the beginning of a new era, the age of humanity. As Earth's fleet approached the Galactic Council's central communication outpost, tension filled the command decks of every warship. The mission was clear: strike fast, disable the outpost, and leave before the enemy could mount a counterattack. But nothing in war ever went according to plan. Commander Elias Carter stood at the bridge of the Eagle's Wrath, his sharp eyes fixed on the holographic display of the enemy station. The massive structure floated in deep space, heavily fortified and surrounded by automated defense platforms. This was the nerve center of the Council's entire military operation. Without it, their fleets would be blind, unable to coordinate. "We'll be entering their sensor range in 60 seconds, Admiral Tanaka reported, her voice calm despite the pressure. The fleet moved in absolute silence. Earth's warships had been equipped with state-of-the-art stealth technology, making them invisible to standard scans. But Carter knew they couldn't remain undetected forever. The moment they'd fired, the Council would know they were there. "All ships, prepare for engagement," Carter ordered. The plan was simple but dangerous. A coordinated strike using EMP warheads to disable the station's defenses, followed by rapid deployment of strike teams to seize control of the command center. If they succeeded, the Council's entire military structure would be thrown into chaos. If they failed, Earth's greatest fleet would be annihilated. As the fleet closed in, the station suddenly flared to life. Red warning lights flashed across the holographic display. The enemy had detected them. "They've spotted us," an officer called out. "Defense turrets are activating." Carter clenched his jaw. There was no turning back now. All ships opened fire. Earth's warships unleashed a devastating barrage of plasma cannons and railgun rounds. Explosions tore through the enemy defense platforms, shattering them into debris. But the station's automated turrets responded immediately, firing streams of high-energy plasma in every direction. The void of space became a battlefield. Earth's fleet weaved between enemy fire, using their superior agility to outmaneuver the Council's defenses. EMP missiles streaked through the darkness, detonating against the station's shields. One by one, the outer layers of defense began to fail. "Shield integrity at 60%, a lieutenant reported. Carter nodded. They were making progress, but time was running out. The Council would send reinforcements any moment now. "Deploy the strike teams," Carter ordered. Small dropships shot out from the fleet, racing toward the station. Inside, elite human soldiers braced themselves, weapons at the ready. As the dropships breached the hull, the real battle began. Inside the station, chaos erupted. Council security forces, taken by surprise, scrambled to respond. The corridors became battlegrounds as human soldiers pushed forward, their weapons cutting through enemy resistance. Lieutenant Sarah Vega led one of the assault teams. She moved swiftly, her pulse rifle firing in controlled bursts. The alien defenders were skilled, but they had never faced humans in close combat before. "Push forward," she shouted. "We need to reach the control room." Blaster fire erupted from both sides. The air smelled of burning metal and ozone. The station trembled as more explosions rocked its structure. Meanwhile, Carter monitored the battle from the bridge. His fleet had taken damage, but they were holding. The Council's forces were stronger than expected, but humanity had come prepared. Suddenly, alarms blared across the Eagle's Wrath. A new enemy fleet had just arrived. Council reinforcements. Multiple warships incoming. Admiral Tanaka called out. "They outnumber us 3-1. Carter's mind raced. They couldn't hold out forever. Their only chance was to secure the station and use its own defenses against the reinforcements. Inside the station, Vega and her team reached the control room. The massive chamber was filled with alien consoles and blinking lights. Council officers turned in shock as the humans burst in. "Take them down," Vega ordered. A brief but intense firefight broke out. Within moments, the last Council officer fell, and Vega rushed to the main control panel. She quickly interfaced with the system, bypassing security protocols. "Commander, we have control of the station," she reported. Carter didn't hesitate. "Turn their weapons on the incoming fleet. Now." Vega activated the station's automated defenses. Suddenly, the massive turrets that once protected the Council now turned on their own ships. Plasma cannons fired, tearing through the reinforcements. The enemy fleet, caught completely off guard, struggled to respond. One by one, Council warships exploded. The tide of battle had shifted. On the Eagle's Wrath, Carter watched as the enemy fleet began to retreat. A slow smile crossed his face. They had done it. "The Council is running," Tanaka said in disbelief. "Let them," Carter replied. "They know now that humanity is not to be underestimated." The battle was won, but the war was far from over. The Galactic Council would not forget this humiliation. They would return, stronger and angrier. But now, they knew the truth. Earth was not defenseless. Humanity was rising. As the last of the enemy ships fled, Carter sent a final message to the Council. "This was your warning," he said coldly. "Stay away from Earth, or next time, we won't show mercy." The Galactic Council had been humiliated. Their once mighty fleets, symbols of their absolute rule, had been shattered. Their prized command station, now under human control, stood as proof that Earth was not a weak, primitive world. But this war was not over. In the aftermath of the battle, the Council's remaining forces had retreated, licking their wounds. Yet, everyone knew they would return. Humanity had proven itself far more dangerous than the Council had ever imagined, and that meant only one thing: revenge was coming. On board the Eagle's Wrath, Commander Elias Carter stood at the bridge, staring at the tactical display. The battle had been won, but there was no time for celebration. Across the galaxy, Council fleets were regrouping, preparing for a full-scale counterattack. This wasn't just about Earth anymore. It was about survival. "They will come with everything they have," Admiral Tanaka said, standing beside him. Carter nodded. "Let them. They think we're just another species to conquer. They don't understand what they've awakened." Down on Earth, the world had changed overnight. Humanity had seen war before, but never on this scale. Nations that had once stood divided now stood as one. Factories worked day and night, producing weapons, ships, and defenses. Scientists, engineers, and strategists raced against time, designing new technologies that would give Earth an edge in the coming storm. The secret ocean fleets, once hidden in the depths of Earth's waters, were now fully mobilized. Warships, unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen, prepared for deployment. But humanity's greatest weapon wasn't its ships or its technology. It was its will. Across the stars, whispers of Earth's defiance spread like wildfire. Other oppressed species, long crushed under the Council's rule, began to hope. If humanity could stand against the Council, maybe they could too. Rebellion sparked in the farthest reaches of space. The Council, for the first time in its long history, faced not just an enemy, but an uprising. Then the Council made its move. A massive invasion fleet, 3 times larger than anything seen before, emerged from hyperspace. Its destination: Earth. The alarms blared across every human warship. The time had come. On the bridge of the Eagle's Wrath, Carter watched as the enemy fleet approached. Thousands of ships, each bristling with weapons, filled the void. It was an armada designed for one purpose: annihilation. Admiral Tanaka took a deep breath. "Orders, sir." Carter's gaze never wavered. "We make them regret ever underestimating us." Then he gave the command that would change the fate of the galaxy forever. "All fleets, attack." And so, humanity's final battle for survival began.